be complex, I would be cool. They'd say I played the field before I found someone to commit to, and that would be okay for me to do. Every conquest I had made would make me more of a boss to you. I'd be a fearless leader, I'd be an alpha type. When everyone believes ya, what's that like? I'm so sick of running as fast as I can, wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. And I'm so sick of them coming at me again, 'cause if I was a man, then I'd be the man, I'd be the man, I'd be the man. They'd say I hustled, put in the work. They wouldn't shake their heads and question how much of this I deserve. What I was wearing, if I was rude, could all be separated from my good ideas and power moves. And they would toast to me, oh, let the players play, be just like Leo in Saint-Tropez. I'm so sick of running as fast as I can, wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. And I'm so sick of them coming at me again, 'cause if I was a man, then I'd be the man, I'd be the man, I'd be the man. What's it like to brag about raking in dollars and getting bitches and models? And it's all good if you're bad, and it's okay if you're mad. If I was out flashing my dollars, I'd be a bitch, not a baller. They paint me out to be bad, so it's okay that I'm mad. I'm so sick of running as fast as I can, wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. And I'm so sick of them coming at me again, 'cause if I was a man, then I'd be the man. I'm so sick of running as fast as I can, wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man. And I'm so sick of them coming at me again, 'cause if I was a man, then I'd be the man.
Good morning. My name is Seher Kuhl, and I currently serve as the President-elect on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us here and those who are joining us virtually. Our congregation is a welcoming one. Being welcoming and inclusive is a never-ending commitment for us here at the UUCS. Being welcoming means striving for radical inclusion and creating spaces that honor every part of our identities, backgrounds, and experiences. If it is your first time visiting us here, we are pleased to have you here. Please feel free to fill out a visitor's card and place it in the offering plate during the service. The visitor cards are located in a pocket on the back of the chair in front of you. We would love to meet you and provide you with information about our beloved congregation. There are many important announcements on the sheets titled Connect at the back of your bulletin this morning. Please open your bulletin to see all that you can be a part of. Here are a few highlights. We have registered for a booth at the Black Pride in Greenville on Saturday, June 29th, and the Consciousness team needs help to make that happen. We are looking for a leader to help coordinate the day, as well as volunteers for the day. The festival runs from 12 to 6, and we need to help setting up the tent and table, staffing the booth, and tearing it down. We don't have our specific time yet, but it will be some time before the start of the festival. Please sign up at the sign-up sheet on the whiteboard or email our Assistant Minister Ann if you can help. It's almost time for the summer solstice. This is a time of mischief and celebration when magic pours through the world. We will gather on the back lawn on Thursday, June 20th at 6:30 p.m., weather permitting. In case it's raining cats and dogs, the sanctuary will be open for our righteous celebration of wilderness as our earth turns in its journey around the sun. Thank you all for being here today, for making room here for each other, for your unwavering support, and for being the kind of people who strive to make the world a better place.
Good morning. My name's Paula Swaney, and I'll be serving as your worship associate this morning. We'll light the chalice this morning with a reading, "Whenever domination is present, love is lacking." A couple of thoughts from Bell Hooks, author, theorist, educator, and social critic. Patriarchy, like any system of domination, for example, racism, relies on socializing everyone to believe that in all human relations that there is an inferior and a superior party. One person is strong, the other weak, and that it is therefore natural for the powerful to rule over the powerless. To those who support patriarchal thinking, maintaining power and control is acceptable by whatever means. Whenever domination is present, love is lacking. And a quick reminder as we move to our hymn, number 91, Susan, I think, announced for us last week that Ruth, announced last week that we were going to have a bit of magic happen after the service today. And we're asking the worship associate committees, we're asking everyone who has a moment to stay and help to please do so. As you pick up your hymnals, there's an insert at the front, and we will have Presto Changeo, a pencil's the best wand I've got today, to swap those over at the end of the service. So if you have a moment and can stay and help with that, we're going to swap out that paper-clipped piece in the front of each of the hymnals. Thank you.
Good morning. If you would turn to hymn number 91 in your gray hymnal, if you would stand and join us in Mother of All. be seated.
Community means that we don't have to face our sorrows alone, and that we have people to celebrate our joys with. We now invite you to come forward, if you wish, and place a stone or shell to represent your joys or concerns in the water of our rippling bowl. I'll place one of each for those who are joining us virtually or who cannot or would not like to come forward. Because we are a community that welcomes and embraces diversity, we come from many different backgrounds, faiths, cultures, and traditions. We're united by our promise to come together and work towards our common goals. Each week, we say and make again our congregational covenant in order to remind us of how we want to be together as a community and accomplish our mission. Please join me in speaking aloud the power of our covenant. With courage, we say, we are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. In this congregation, we greet each other with unbelievable exuberance while still respecting each other with loving space, offering each other both exclamations of glad to see you and quiet smiles and nods of gratitude for your presence. Please take the next few minutes to let others know how happy you are to see them and that their presence here matters. And if you're joining us virtually, you can take this time to reach out via text message or phone to anyone you want. And when the music begins, please return to your seats so that we can share the next part of our service together. I am not writing down any names of anyone who was not sitting when the music stopped. I will note no one had to be lured to their seat with yarn as she looks directly to the cameras. All right, we each contribute to this community with a multitude of gifts. Some people give gifts of time, talent, energy, perspective, knowledge, opinions. We really love those. And love. And the generosity of this congregation is incredible, especially when it comes to that opinion part and the love. So now we'll contribute as we can with our financial gifts. This month, we share half of unmarked funds and all marked funds from our offering plate with Voting Justice. There's more information about that in the Justice section of your Connect at the back of your order of service. The offering will now be freely given and gratefully received. And even if you're not putting any paper in the plate today, as it comes by and you pass it, know that your presence here today is gift enough.
I used to float, now I just fall down. I used to know, but I'm not sure now what I was made for. What was I made for? Taken a drive, I was an ideal. Looked so alive. Turns out I'm not real. Just something you paid for. What was I made for? 'Cause I don't know how to feel, but I wanna try. I don't know how to feel, but someday I might. Someday I might. When did it end? It's not what he's made for. What was I made for? 'Cause I don't know how to feel, but I want to try. Yes, I don't know how to feel, but someday I might. Someday I might. Think I forget how to be happy. Something I'm not, but something I can be. Something I wait for. Something I'm made for. Something I'm made for.
Can you all join? I can't see any of you because I don't have my real glasses on, so hang on. Can you all join me in a standing ovation for Cindy and Amanda, who pulled together like Friday night, I think, so thank you. That was not an easy request on my part. If y'all will join me in a moment of silence. Technicolor Justice, movies about good trouble. Last week, we used the pursuit of happiness to look at ways we can find happiness and joy in the difficulties of life. And we all have those. This week, we turn to Barbie. Last July, the Barbie movie came out. And I have to admit that it was not long before its release that I even knew that there was a Barbie movie coming out. I also have to admit that I had little to zero interest in a Barbie movie. But then I began to see people posting about it. I began to see clips. I began to read reviews. I also learned that the co-writer and director Greta Gerwig, was raised as a UU. So off I went to the movie theater with Ted and Katie. Now, when I got there, it was obvious that we didn't get the memo to wear pink. The theater was filled with people wearing pink clothes, but I did get that memo today, and it looks like some of you read your happenings in the unison to see that today is Barbie because there's a lot of pink out there. This movie was not at all what I expected it to be. Although I'm not really sure what I expected it to be, just not what it was. I guess I assumed it would be a movie about a doll that I grew up playing with, a doll who idealized unattainable beauty. I was not expecting a commentary on patriarchy. In case you haven't seen it, and I do encourage you to see it, here is a quick snapshot. The movie follows stereotypical Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, as she lives her life in Barbie land with many different Barbies. Dr. Barbie, President Barbie, Weird Barbie, who was played by Kate McKinnon and is maybe my favorite, physicist Barbie, writer Barbie, and others. They have the power. The Kens also live there, but they are basically accessories, ones without power. Barbie and her Ken, fabulously played by Ryan Gosling, leave Barbie land and go to the real world, where Barbie looks for a person who is theoretically playing with her, and Ken discovers the concept of patriarchy. Since the Kens aren't really taken seriously in Barbie land, he kind of digs this real world where the men hold the power. He returns to Barbie land and upends Barbie's dream world by creating a patriarchal society there. Barbie returns from the dream world to find her Barbies are no longer thinking for themselves and now serving the Kens, where the Barbie dream houses are now Mojo Dojo Casa houses. Gloria, played by America Ferrera, and her daughter Sasha go to Barbie land with Barbie, and Gloria offers an amazing monologue that you will hear at the end of the service. The film shows what it is like to live under patriarchy, and it highlights that it is not good for anyone. It is not good for the Barbies or the Kens. In the end, the lesson is that we are all enough just as we are. That sounds a little like something you hear around this beloved community. Everyone is welcome here just as we each are. Ken learns that he is Kenough and shakes off the masculine expectations put upon him by patriarchy. Who knew there would be so much in a movie about Barbies? So what is patriarchy anyway? It is not about horses, as Ken learned on his venture out of Barbie land and into the real world. It literally means the rule of the father. It is a term used to refer to a system of society or government in which men hold the power and people who are not men, women, trans, and non-binary folks, and also often children of most gender expressions, are largely excluded from it. Sociologist Alan Johnson wrote, "Patriarchy does not refer to any man or collection of men, but to a kind of society in which men and women and everyone participate. A society is patriarchal to the degree that it promotes male privilege by being male-dominated, male-identified, and male-centered. It is also organized around an obsession with control and involves as one of its key aspects the oppression of women." Now, it's important that we remember patriarchy is a system and not a particular man or group of men. When we forget that piece, men can feel personally attacked, and the rest of us can blame individual men for patriarchy just because they are men. This is fed by the individualism we tend to live in as a society. Individualism that is itself a result of patriarchy and its narcissism. We are all susceptible to that, and we forget that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, a society, a system. Patriarchy is a system. It's a system with deeply ingrained biases that see men holding most positions of leadership and controlling resources in both the public and private spheres, while the rest of us play a secondary role and are seen as weaker. It is a system we all live in. Sadly, I have so many personal examples of blatant experiences of patriarchy, yet there are also many examples that we probably don't even realize are patriarchal. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting on my front porch having a conversation with two friends who happened to be men. A young salesman walked up the stairs and looked at one of them and said, "Oh, you must be the king of the castle." I rolled my eyes and said, "No, he's not." The young man continued talking to my friend, trying to sell a service to him, even though I was the only person on the porch who actually lived there, could make decisions about that house, and pay taxes on that property. I said numerous times that we weren't interested, but he was not listening to me. First of all, he was pushy, which I find extremely frustrating. But also, he would not listen to me. My other friend said, "She said they're not interested," several times. The salesman finally left. He came back a couple of days later when one of those friends was back on my porch meeting with me. The exact same thing happened. "Oh, you must be the king of the castle." That was obviously his little line, his go-to. Kings, plus castles, plus everybody trying to make money, plus ignoring the woman who actually lives here, that is patriarchy. Earlier this year, I was in a local shop getting something done for the church. The employee asked me, "Well, what do you do for the church?" I don't think they were expecting me to say, "I'm one of the ministers." He replied, "Oh, I guess your husband does the preaching." Well, no. Hello, patriarchy. I cannot fully express to you how satisfying it is to include this story in a sermon that I am preaching. Many of you have heard that I spent my chaplaincy residency year in a cohort with people who do not think women can be or should be ministers. I also had a couple of encounters with patients who expressed those same beliefs. I'll never forget the internalized patriarchy of a fellow woman in my cohort who argued with me for a year about how I could not be a minister because I am not a man. And she was training to be a chaplain just like me while telling me these things. These experiences have actually formed the basis for my current doctoral dissertation project. What are some examples of patriarchy that might not be as blatant, but are very much in practice in our culture? We could be here for days, or maybe even weeks, listing them, but we won't do that. When I was at Furman, I remember hearing people ask things like, "Are you here to get your MRS degree?" As in, "Did you come here to find a husband?" My response to that was, "Are you for real?" That was just ludicrous. And think about school dress codes. They are mostly for women and girls, so the clothes they wear don't distract men and boys. Are you for real? How about we teach them to respect those of us who are not men and not look at us as sex objects? School dress codes really just feed into rape culture, where women and girls are blamed for what others choose to do to them. Many times when a woman, girl, or trans person has been sexually assaulted, harassed, or beaten, we often hear comments and questions like, "Well, what were they wearing?" Or, "I wonder what they did to deserve that." Or, "I'm sure they were asking for it." We don't look at how or why our society promotes these kinds of behaviors through sexist jokes, the inclusion of sexual coercion and violence in movies and TV shows, and the normalization of male control and domination. We don't question the perpetrator. it is almost always the victim who is questioned or criticized. In a traditional heterosexual home, it is seen as odd when the woman is the primary breadwinner and the man stays home as the primary caregiver of children and or the home. Even when both the husband and wife work, it is typically expected that the wife will take care of household chores such as cooking dinner, doing laundry, cleaning the house, etc., while the husband rests since he is tired after working all day. We have flipped that model upside down in the Garner house. Being asked, is the man of the house available, or similar situations? Apparently, the rest of us can't make important decisions on our own. Men are twice as likely to interrupt a woman when she is speaking as women are to interrupt a man. A man having multiple sexual partners is considered a real man, a stud, a player, whereas a woman would be considered a slut or a harlot. Women rarely feel physically safe when going outside at night. Have you seen this man or bear trend on social media? Screenshot HQ is a TikTok account, and they started this conversation by asking a group of women, would you rather be alone in the woods with a man or a bear? There are almost 80,000 replies on the original post, and most of them answered bear. Some of the reasons are fascinating and telling. You know what to expect from a bear. Absolutely a bear. Humans are capable of so much worse. A bear, because if I got attacked by a bear, people would actually believe me. Obviously, this isn't really about survival skills or even a bear. One response said, the fact that women would even consider hypothetical man-bear questions means we have utterly failed to create a safe society. According to data from the United Nations, almost 89,000 women and girls were intentionally killed worldwide in 2022. UN data also shows that 1 in 3 across the world have experienced intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence, categories that include domestic violence and rape. It is sad to me that many women feel safer encountering a bear in the woods than a man. Finally, well, not really finally, because there's so many more we could talk about, but finally for today. The number of laws being passed, primarily by men, which regulate women's bodies is astounding. It is all about having control over women. Governmental control over women's lives, not just around reproduction, has been built into the system for many years. But everybody hold up, because this is not just about what men do to everybody else. Patriarchy is so ingrained in our culture. We all have absorbed it and can act it out. That's right. You don't have to be a man to be patriarchal. Internalized patriarchy and misogyny is when women subconsciously project sexist ideas onto other women and even onto themselves. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a woman cutting other women down for not doing things the way she thought they should be done, or for thinking differently than the way she thought the other should think? My beloved people, I have seen it happen here. That is internalized patriarchy. We have to decide not to act, not to lead, not to think the way dominant men in a patriarchal society have taught us to act, lead, and think. We have to decide and practice being different over and over again. We have ideas about how a woman should be in the world, which come from societal expectations and gender norms. And we can find ourselves projecting these ideals because it is sometimes hard to even recognize them. These ideals are deeply embedded in our culture. Susanna Weiss says, internalized misogyny does not refer outright to a belief in the inferiority of women. It refers to the byproducts of this societal view that cause women to shame, doubt, and undervalue themselves and others of their gender. We don't even know we're doing it. In her book, The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love, Bell Hooks says, we need to highlight the role women play in perpetuating and sustaining patriarchal culture so that we will recognize patriarchy as a system women and men support equally, even if men receive more rewards from that system. Dismantling and changing patriarchal culture is work that men and women must do together. We could say that all of us must do it together. Patriarchy harms men, not just everyone who is not a man. Holding on to the characteristics that society says men should have is harmful. Characteristics like being tough, being self-sufficient, fulfilling the prescribed masculine gender roles, using violence to gain respect. It prevents men from connecting with their emotions. It promotes individuality and competitiveness. Patriarchy is a threat to men's mental and physical health because those ideals encourage risk-taking behaviors and discourages seeking help. Under patriarchy, men need to be strong. But this kind of strength that denies vulnerability is not strength at all. In fact, it can be very dangerous. Men are less likely to go to the doctor when they are sick or to seek counseling for mental health issues. They're less likely to take time off from work. They're less likely to recognize symptoms of potential life-threatening health issues, all in the name of being manly, of being strong, of not being weak. That's not real strength. That's just being egotistically stubborn. Patriarchy can also impact relationships both with other men and with women. Ideals fueled by homophobia can prevent men from developing deep friendships with other males. There's a threat of violence between men, particularly against gender non-conforming men, men who don't fit the rigid masculine stereotypes, queer folks and trans folks. It also encourages a hierarchy over women, which often dehumanizes women and leads to male entitlement and violence against them. Patriarchy encourages norms that harm all of us. So how do we deal with all of this? What do we do? If this is so entrenched in our culture that we all have absorbed it, what can we do to change this? I mean, if internalized patriarchy gets expressed even here in this beloved community, what hope do we have? Think of that Barbie movie. It literally tries to recreate our world by showing us that mutually destructive norms and ideals guaranteed by patriarchy aren't good for any of us. And it does that by being really different and really way, way better than I or maybe anyone else expected when walking into the movie theater. We have to choose to be different. Not perfect, but different. Thank God for our trans and non-binary siblings who show us just how ludicrous this whole thing is. So let me tell you a story of how choosing to do what is different can make a world of mutual thriving for all of us. There I was, totally discouraged by the relentless patriarchal comments from my fellow candidates for chaplaincy. And when I say relentless, I mean Bible-banging, red state swaggering relentless, even and sometimes most especially by the fellow woman in my cohort. And I wondered if I should just quit. Who needs this? And some people listened to me. They acted like friends. They acted like they loved me. They filled my cup a first time and asked me what was happening. They filled my cup a second time and asked me to tell them more, to share what I was experiencing, to share how I felt, to curse and cry and let off steam, to share my vulnerability with them. And some of them said, well, instead of quitting chaplaincy, maybe you should quit the church. Give yourself some more breathing room to focus on this hard job. But they listened to me say, oh, no, no, no. Those people actually fill me with energy. I was talking about all of you. They aren't perfect, really. They make mistakes. You do. But they do it for the very best reasons, and they give me strength. And some of them said, then stick with it, and we will stick with you through it. And they did. You did. Not always easily, but faithfully. And we figured out ways you could help me and ways I could help you. And over time, we got better at it. And then suddenly there I was at graduation. And all the things I was told I could not be, I had become. And when I walked out of that graduation ceremony, I smiled at each person who told me I could not be who I really am. And then I came to my friends, all of you, and said thank you. And that scenario repeated itself about 2.5 months later at my ordination service. Another thing I was told I could not be, I had become. And when I walked out of that ordination service, I again smiled at each person who had told me I could not be who I really am. And I came back to my friends, to all of you, and said thank you. And we kept on creating. And one of my friends, and then another, of many different genders said, "You're really on a roll. You should keep going with your education." And I wasn't sure I should, or if I had the energy, but I gave it a shot, and here I stand halfway through my doctoral work. And then I had to come up with a dissertation topic. And I was sorting through lots of ideas and trying to sound very scholarly and impressive and feeling very frustrated. I shared this with a friend, and my friend said, "Well, what do you really want to research? What is the burning question inside you?" And I said right away, "Why the bleep are we still having to deal with this? Why is the question of women in ministry still so stuck?" And my friend said, "I think you have your question." And so I wrote a project proposal, and I submitted it, and I presented it, and my professor gave me an Oscar for it. Well, maybe not. Here's the deal, Barbie. I have been taught to sideline myself my whole life, sometimes explicitly, but most often through the subtle coercion of our culture. And I got attacked, including by other women, for stepping forward with my power. It was hard, and I got attacked again. Just telling you this story goes against all of my training to silently grin and bear it. But my friends, you listened to me. You encouraged me. You urged me on. And we won an Oscar for our doctoral dissertation presentation. This is how to upend patriarchy. Be different. Be a friend. Listen. Share power. Affirm the value of every one of our lives. And take concrete actions to support every person's life.
Would you please turn to hymn 298 in your gray hymnal? Wake Now My Senses. seated.
It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like we have to always be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be part of a sisterhood. But always stand out and always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. And it turns out, in fact, it's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself in knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll just representing women, then I don't even know. Quick reminder at the end of the service, after our closing song, if you would gather up the hymnals that are in front of you and pass them to the very center aisle, that will help us in our Presto Changeo after the service.
It is literally impossible to be a woman. So, together, let us upend the patriarchy. Let us be different. Let us be friends. Let us listen. Let us share power. Let us affirm the value of every one of our lives. And let's all of us take concrete actions to support every person's life every day.